It is Italian night here, and tonight I'm making a simple rustic grilled chicken recipe with fresh mozzarella, ripe tomatoes, basil, and balsamic vinegar. First, let's fire up that grill and get it preheating. Turn the grill up to medium-high heat so we get those grill grates nice and hot. I have let the chicken come to room temperature so that it doesn't stick to my grill while we're cooking. Now we are going to take these 3 large pieces of chicken and cut them in half. First, however, I'm going to switch cutting boards. Whenever you are working with meat or fish products, you don't want to use your wooden cutting board. The reason is wooden cutting boards tend to hold on to contaminants and as a result will cause some cross-contamination. What you want to use for meats is a silicone or polyurethane cutting board. Now that we have our meat board, I'm going to place my hand flat on top of the meat. Using a very sharp knife, cut the chicken in half as I'm doing here. Repeat the process with the other pieces and try to cut them as close to the same thickness as you can. This is so that all the meat cooks at about the same amount of time, and once you have the pieces cut, lay them out evenly on your board in one layer. Once you have laid them out, take the time to wash your hands. You are about to season the chicken and you do not want to contaminate your seasonings with chicken juices. It is very important to be very diligent about cross-contamination when working with any meat, but chicken especially. You also want to change out knives or any other utensils you used on the raw chicken before you cut anything else. Now that your hands are clean, we are going to season the meat with salt and pepper. When seasoning your meat, keep your hands high so that the seasoning spreads out evenly and covers your meat. Season both sides of the meat using a pair of tongs to turn the meat over, keeping those hands nice and clean. Once both sides are seasoned, I'm going to brush olive oil onto the meat. The olive oil is basically a glue we are going to use to keep the Italian seasoning on the meat. So brush the meat with the olive oil, then sprinkle the Italian seasoning mix over the meat until you feel like it is well seasoned. Again, using the tongs to turn the meat over, and repeat the olive oil and seasoning on the other side. Once you have both sides seasoned, your chicken is ready to meet the grill. Okay. We are at the grill. I have the fire on medium-high and it's nice and hot. I'm going to place the chicken on the grill and you really want to hear that sizzle. Once you put it on the grill, you don't want to move it much until you're ready to turn it over so you get those wonderful grill marks. Those marks are flavors, so we want them nice and dark. I'm keeping the lid of my grill open so that I can watch the meat carefully. You will know when it's time to turn over the chicken when it no longer sticks to the grill grates and you get nice dark grill marks. It should only take about 3 to 5 minutes. Once the chicken is loosened from the grill and you have those marks, you can turn it over and mark the other side for another 2 or 3 minutes until the internal temperature of the chicken is about 160 degrees Fahrenheit or about 71 degrees Celsius. Now you can turn your grill down to medium as we want the cheese we put on to melt without overcooking the chicken. Overcooked chicken is dried chicken and we certainly do not want that. So place the slice of mozzarella on top of the chicken, basically in the middle, then place the sliced tomato on top of the cheese. Do that for each piece of meat. Because we want the cheese to melt and the tomatoes to cook just a bit, we're going to go ahead and close the grill top. It should only take 2 or 3 minutes to melt. Once your cheese has melted, it is time to take the chicken off the grill. You want the internal temperature of your meat in the center to be 165 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 74 degrees Celsius. Temp your meat by placing an instant read thermometer through the thickest part of the meat and into the middle. If it is just a degree or 2 less, it's okay as it will reach that temperature during its resting time. As a general rule of thumb, all meat should be rested for about 10 minutes to allow for the juices to be drawn back into those muscle fibers instead of on the bottom of your plate. Loosely tent your chicken with foil to keep the chicken warm while it rests. While the meat is resting, it's time to reduce your balsamic vinegar. I use a very nice 4-leaf balsamic vinegar that is already very thick. If you have one of those thinner balsamics, you can take about a cup, place it in a shallow pan over medium heat. Allow it to come to a good simmer and reduce it by half or until it becomes thick. Stir it regularly to prevent burn. We also need a chiffonade of basil for the garnish. So while we wait, I'm going to show you how to chiffonade some fresh basil. First, you pinch off the larger leaves right where they widen from the stem. Place them on top of one another in a stack with all the tips on one side and the bases on the other. Once you have a good stack, turn the stack of leaves so that the base is towards you and the tip is pointing away from you. Roll the leaves from the base to the tip like a little cigar. Hold the cigar with your fingertips tucked underneath your first knuckles, and using a sharp knife, cut the cigar crosswise using a rocking and sliding motion. Basically, place the tip of your knife on the board, rock your knife down across the cigar while sliding it forward. Try to make the cuts as thin as you can as you form tiny ribbons of basil. Once you have the ribbons of basil, just set them aside and check on your balsamic. Now that the chicken is rested for about 10 minutes, it is time to plate. We eat with our eye before we ever taste what is on our plate, so you want the food to look appetizing and pretty. So I placed the chicken on my serving platter and used the flower ends of the basil pieces and put them in places to make it look pretty. Now I'm going to sprinkle my basil ribbons on top of my chicken, as much or as little as you like. Then I'm going to drizzle the balsamic vinegar over the top. Again, using as much or as little as you'd like. Once that is done, we are ready to eat. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and maybe have learned a thing or two. Give this simple rustic chicken recipe a try and let me know what you think. Bon appetit! Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, remember, happiness is great food and good company.